So we've had the blow up with FTX, the nuclear explosion. Everything is imploding, and we're finding out where all the reciprocal damages and what all the fallout effects are going to be. And the hits just keep on coming. And I think it could be worse than what we're seeing right now. I take a look at that and look at the role of Bitcoin and start looking at how some of the core principles are making it stand out from all the other blockchain related tokens. So let's get started. So as of today, the recording day is the 19th of November, 2022. FTX has already declared bankruptcy. The current standing CEO, who's taking it through bankruptcy proceedings, has found the whole structure of FTX to be a mess. And the way it looks is that the team that was running FTX was running a sloppy operation. They set up legal entities where required. They swapped assets back and forth. They were not running a sound platform. They were running an engineering experiment. Engineering as far as a financial engineering, moving assets from A to B. I questioned if they knew the full extent of what their assets were, what their liabilities were, and where the holes were. It's speculated that the Terra Luna collapse was sort of the first domino to fall, and that with FTX stepping into a lot of organizations like BlockFi, and I believe it was Voyager Digital, that it was done not so much out of a altruism to defend the space and protect it and keep everyone whole, but to cover holes in their own balance sheet, is basically to cover their own ass. And we're seeing that there is a lot of messes in the space. A lot of people had exposure to FTX, and with it folding, we're seeing all of the leverage that is in the system come apart. I've listened to a lot of podcasts lately that talk about things like the financial system. One of the points brought up that I want to bring into this discussion is that humans have a tendency to end up financializing things, to have derivative products. You could say that money itself, physical money, or money in its useful form, is a derivative of human labor, of human activity. So that we have a system, a financial system where things are financialized, going off of a asset-backed currency allowed for increased financialization of the monetary system, of money, of debt, which in a fractional reserve system that we have is the money. And if there's one thing that we see happening, which I think is kind of one of the main points right now, first with Terra Luna and now with the FTX episode, is the importance of Bitcoin and self-custody. With Bitcoin, you don't have centralized actors that can be taken down. You don't have a monetary network that is vulnerable to the shortcomings of people. In the case of FTX, and some of this is a little bit speculation and my impressions, the shortcomings of ego, hubris, believing oneself to be smart, financial engineering. They did things they could do because they could do them. If there were more boundaries up, maybe they wouldn't have taken the same actions that they did, the same risks that they did. Also, too, the team had intelligence, but they didn't have experience. They didn't have, my impressions were that they were not the people to be running large companies, to be running companies. it was pointed out several times, FTX, as big as it was, had no board of directors. It just had a bunch of people, a handful of people running a show. It had employees that handled the different departments, services, but the leadership was it was the leadership team. And what we've seen is that aside from leverage, we've also have a good illustration of third-party risk, where if you don't hold it, you don't own it. It's like a Mt. Gox episode where when Mt. Gox, the old Bitcoin exchange, collapsed in 2014, a lot of people who had their Bitcoin in custody of the exchange, they lost it because they didn't have access to the private keys. Same thing with FTX. They didn't have access to the private keys, not your crypto. And we're seeing that with a lot of firms. Celsius was a good example. Voyager Digital, Three Arrows Capital. We're seeing it all over the place. And the contagion is spreading. We're seeing exchanges getting stressed with withdrawals. We're seeing balance sheets getting stressed. We're seeing companies saying, well, because of FTX, we've had this much exposure. Yeah, we have to write this off. And we're seeing how the strength of Bitcoin, being that it's permissionless and anyone can use it, decentralized in that there's no centralized entity managing it. It's permissionless, anyone can use it. Censorship resistant. I know I repeated one of these. And it's peer-to-peer. And it's has finality of settlement, meaning as soon as the transaction's done, it's cleared through, and you don't need anything of the human realm to finalize this. The code is law. The network becomes more ossified by the day. And this creates a certain degree of certainty as well as safety and security, where if you control the private keys to a wallet with Bitcoin in it, no one can rug pull you, no matter what happens in the crypto space, to the companies, to legislation. If you control that private key, that Bitcoin is yours. And another thing out of this that I've been seeing in the last couple months is the slow separation of Bitcoin from all of the cryptocurrencies. And it's sort of an interesting analysis when I look at it. I've been in the space, really gotten deep into the weeds since 2017. And in its early roots, the whole idea was, hey, we have this decentralized application. We can use blockchain technology to create new things, to try and apply it to different aspects of human activity. And that's where smart contract platforms came into play. That's where all the layer 2 applications built on top of the smart contract platforms come into play. That's where, with NFTs and the technology of verification comes into play. That's where, and with that comes the potential to make a new world. But before we go on, a quick word from our sponsor. And we're back. And because the tokens became available for trading, you started to have a mechanism via these exchanges of a relative value of a network. And one of the big questions I'm turning over in my head is, as legislation is going to get pushed through in different countries, in different regulatory bodies, in different nation states. We're going to see definitions come into play. Because Bitcoin has no team that manages the network or that says, hey, this is the official wallet. You can run multiple wallets. Anyone can make a wallet. Anyone can make a wallet for any network. But when you think of organizations like the Ethereum Foundation and its developers, Input Output Hong Kong managing Cardano, Solana, and the entity, the body of people that operate that network, you start to go into the legal weeds and you think about, is a token used as fuel on a network a security? You could argue that through the mechanism of a sale to raise funds to, however, it makes me think those tokens are used to operate a network, to operate and perform transactions. It is the fuel for that network, whatever, say, a smart contract platform. In which case, if it's not a claim of ownership, but in this case it's a usage token, can it be accurately called a security? If an organization monetizes this and sells these tokens for its operations, is it a security or is it just an asset? I'm inclined to think the latter. I almost think that for legislation, we need to create a new framework needs to be made where there are rules governing managing organizations and there are rules governing the network itself, the protocol itself, the tokens of that protocol itself. Whether or not that happens, I don't know. And that brings into thought another question. Do we need the price markets? Should these tokens be traded? I realize that serves as a mechanism to measure value in the human realm, the financialization, if you will. The question is, if there is a promise or if there is a potential for growth in value, does that make it a security? I'm kind of thinking no. I'm kind of thinking, reverting back to my previous point. The big question though is, if we are holding on to tokens, like for example, as the time of this recording, I have some Ethereum, I have some Cardano, I have some Chainlink tokens. Will we be able to speculate on the price? Or will this turn into a situation where those tokens, just like say, in a similar manner to say stock certificates or bonds, government bonds, do we need to establish ownership and verification through some sort of regulated medium? I don't know. It's possible. I don't know if that could apply to Bitcoin as well, where there's a proof of ownership, if you'd be able to own these tokens anonymously. I know through the path of taxation that reveals information about ownership, or at least having touched tokens, sort of in an indirect way. But if there's no wallet addresses that are required for information sharing purposes, there's still a degree of anonymity. So I don't know. I don't know what the risk factor with these other networks and with these other tokens are. I really don't. It's a big gray area. With as much as there is right now with third-party contagion going around and the risk of self-custodying your coins. Doesn't matter what it is, your tokens, your coins, your Bitcoin. And also you have to figure third-party risks with stablecoins. Like right now, I think Tether locked up addresses, blocked addresses. USDC, I think, completely switched over to networks. they switched chains. I can't remember if it was going from Ethereum to Binance or Binance to Ethereum, or it was migrating from Solana, I believe, Solana to one of the other networks. And that creates a lot of risk. I don't know where things will go. I don't know how things will shape up. I really don't. You have to measure your own risk. And I'm going to throw in as final thoughts. A lot of people these last 8 months have gotten horribly wrecked. Even I have felt some of the effects of what's been happening during this time period. I think it's a twofold thing. A lot of people are catching crap because they were promoting BlockFi as a sponsor or an affiliate link. It's a twofold thing. I think of from the movie Star Wars, the phrase when they were caught by the Death Star and the Millennium Falcon's on in the hangar bay. The stormtroopers checked it. It was empty. They come out of their hiding place. Han Solo says, "Damn fool, I knew you'd say that." And Ben Kenobi's retort is, "Who's the fool? The fool or the fool who follows?" We could put a blame on faces in the space for promoting things like Celsius or BlockFi and say, you should have done your due diligence. Look how many people got wrecked because of you. But at the same time, too, nobody made those people touch their hands on a hot stove. They made that choice. I mean, no one's going to bail me out because BitConnect folded. No one's going to get back my $100 of Bitcoin from Control Finance. That was a lesson I had to learn. We have some people, if it wasn't going to be crypto, if it wasn't going to be a crypto-related service, it very likely could have been something else. It could have been having all your money in one bank. It could have been the purchase of, putting your money into one stock. It could have been whatever. People now more than ever need to take more responsibility for risk. And there's a lot of pissed off people that don't want to hear that, but that's the case. Caveat emptor. Plain and simple. As far as where this contagion is going, I have no clue. I think that we're probably going to see things get messy. I think because of the political connections. What legislation goes through, what gets investigated, that is going to be up for grabs. So there's a lot to digest, and this is a story that's unfolding in real time. Where things will end up, again, remains to be seen. How deep and how far the contagion spreads, we're going to find out. Remember, you don't hold it, you don't own it. If you can get your coins off in exchange, do it. Understand the risks of third-party possession and understand the benefits of self-custody. And also look into those protocols. Find out, where are the risks? Are they centralized? Can they be shut down? Can your coins get locked up? Can you lose access to them, not just through, say, something like an exchange going down, but just like Tether? It's a centralized entity managing that entire coin. So with that, you can follow TinyCryptoBlog on the social media sites listed in the show notes. And with that, be well, everyone. Talk to you soon.